Welcome to Rouge with Ancestry. I'm Renee Richard, and I'm here today at the Louisiana State Archives on Essen Lane here in Baton Rouge. And we're visiting here. We talked about some of what could be found in some previous shows on vital records, but we're going to tell you a little bit about visiting an archives, and this is a very good example. The hours here, first of all, are 8 to 4, Monday through Friday. They are open on the first Saturday of the month, if there's not a holiday, and the hours then are 9 to 5. But when you do arrive here, we're in what they call the research room or the reading room when you come in the front door to the left. And when you come in, you're going to have to sign in. And it's important, again, that you come in comfortable clothes and that you come prepared. Do some homework at home or when you first get here for what you might want to be looking for. When you get here, you do have to sign in, and they require pencils here. So you're going to hopefully bring a pencil, but they will supply you with one if you don't. They do require that you lock your bags, your purses up, or anything large. And the best thing to do when you come is simply to ask the staff. They're very, very helpful here. They're more than willing to help you, and they will tell you what they allow out in here, like small computers, your immediate papers, but not large books or your bags or purse, anything of that nature. But they provide you with a locker that's in the same room where you're going to be working, just a little cove off of the main room. So while we're here, we will look at vital records, but there's so many more interesting things here as well. Our state archives is not one right now that you can actually go online to look at what's available, but Judy Riffle, who is going to be here with us and will be showing us some documents, wrote a book as a guide, and if you don't have it at home and you can access it here when you come in, you can ask them about it. You can also find it at your libraries, but it will get, that way you can kind of look ahead if there's something you want to look at from other parishes and records that they might have from around the state here. And we're going to get real specific and look at some really cool stuff as we progress through today. Leonard and Judy are here, and we're going to move in just a few minutes. Leonard and I are going to go ahead and start with vital records first because we had talked about that in another show, and Leonard did his. Some of his family, but we'll pull some. We'll show you how to request the records from them, what's necessary for you to do in order to get the record. If you want to mail it in, it's $5 and they'll do the work for you, but half the fun of this is coming and hunting and looking. So with that in mind, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be back, and Leonard and I, and we're going to pull some of the interesting things we found.
Attention Roku users, you can now subscribe to Catholic Life Television's channel on your Roku device. Watch our live 24-hour broadcast as well as on-demand viewing of locally produced programming from the Diocese of Baton Rouge. So, sit back, relax, and enjoy Catholic Life Television, available on Roku.
I'm here with Leonard Smith, and now Leonard and I are going to actually use the Secretary of State's database and show you kind of how it's done if you want to look up vital records here at the State Archives.
All right, we actually are going to the site sos.la.gov, and on that page there's historical resources. We click there. Then we actually go to Research Historical Records, and then you'll see a link that says Online Public Vital Records Index. What we have available is the Orleans Marriage Index, the Orleans Death Index, the Orleans Parish Birth Index, and the Statewide Death Index.
And if you remember correctly, when we did the show on the courthouses, most marriage records are in the courthouse, so you won't find them here, just the Orleans ones.
That's right. So we're gonna start with one Louisiana death records first.
Okay, we looked up some fun names, and how about Urkelon?
Okay, and then on this page, there's actually two options you have, a basic search and an advanced search. I always use the advanced search, and you'll see why in a moment here, but we have a last name, first name, parish, age, month, date, and year. So we're gonna look up which okay, so we're gonna do last name is long, and we have a list that comes up of the first 500, so we know that's too big a database for us to search, so we want to actually now use his first name.
There we go.
And now we only have 4 options here. And we know that, well, we know that he actually died in 1960, so we do see one. He needs Earl K. Earl Kemp.
So now we have the information we need to pull the microfilm. So again, and there's a little paper that we put on the screen that you fill out, and this is actually a state
death record.
State death record. So you would circle that, and his name, you put the name in, The year is 1960. The volume is...
Volume is 701.
And
I'm sorry,
page-
volume is 14, page
Okay.
701.
And that's the information that you will need in order to give the clerk in the front.
That's right.
So, and that's all the information that you get from this site, correct?
That's right, that's right. It's just the index.
Now, there are other ways in which we could have looked up a more interesting name, but we can probably do that when
Yeah,
we get to some other good ones.
All right,
Okay.
try another?
So, yeah, let's look at a marriage record from Orleans Parish.
Okay, so I'm going to actually do my back button and go to Orleans Parish Marriage Records.
Okay. And let's do Kurt Douglas.
Kurt Douglas, okay. Going back to the advanced search, the groom's last name, and that would be Douglas. First name, Kurt. And it always helps if you spell it correctly. All right, here we go. Kurt Douglas.
And that's the only one that comes up.
The only one comes up, and this is 1943. The month is November. So the volume is 59.
And it would be a marriage, Orleans marriage.
And
okay.
page 757.
All right.
Okay.
So now we're making some progress here. Now, let's look at another one,
Okay.
like Homer Plessy.
Homer Plessy, okay.
And then we'll talk back.
So we're going to
Other
go
ways
actually
to
back
research
to the Louisiana Death
Death
Records
would be another one.
and advanced search, and we're
All
going to
right.
put in last name Plessy.
All right, now,
Okay, now there's
let's put
18.
in Homer.
Let's try Homer, okay, for the first name.
And we get nothing. And the reason for that is you have to spell names exactly the way that they appear in here. If you have any discrepancies at all, you're not going to find them. So in the case of Homer, we did find him, but we dropped the H and started looking under O. So if you pull up, got it? Where are you?
There we go.
Homer?
Homer Plessy, yes.
Okay, he comes up as Owen. And so, but we think that's probably him because the dates are correct for when he died, which we know, but this is for a purpose of example. When we pull the microfilm and you'll see why.
Not only that, once we pull the record, we can verify his parents.
a lot of the
'cause we do
information.
have that information. So he's actually on volume 190,
Okay.
page 338. And this is the Louisiana Death Records.
All right.
And the year is 1925.
And these are important because this is how they locate the reels of film when you're here in order to do that. Okay. So now we've got these. Anything else you want to bring
Yeah,
up?
why don't we try his, is it his married record?
Marriage, I think.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, because
We're
he
gonna
was
do
married in Orleans.
Okay.
So we go back to the advanced section, and we're going to put Plessy as the groom.
And as you start typing the letters in, so for instance, P, L, it will start giving examples. And this is another reason if you invert your E and your A, you're going to get the wrong ones. But plenty of times, if say you know the name might be, I don't know, bourgeois, and you're not sure of the spelling of it, you may have to spell it several different ways
That's right.
in order to get it. Or what you can do also is put in the year or the month if you know when they might have died or been married. One name, first names of the bride and the groom. There are multiple ways in which this database will work.
That's right, that's right. And so we actually have Homer Plessy this
Okay.
time, and his name is spelled correctly.
All right.
This is actually volume 13, page 258, and the year is 1888.
1888. So now we have some material that we can go and pull some microfilm and see how this is done. Anything else you want to add?
No, I think that'll cover it.
Okay, we're going to move on now.
Hello everyone, I'm Shannon Acord and this is Colette Keith, and we're talking about Veritas Vitae, a brand new show that's going to talk about the sacredness of God's gift of life from conception to natural death and every stage in between.
We'll be discussing human trafficking to abortion to hunger. So tune in every week to see these episodes and learn how we're all connected by these issues and learn about the power of God's truth.
As earlier we stated that you actually have to fill out a request form for the microfilm, that the clerk would actually hand it to you, and so once he comes back he'll give you a roll of film, and you want to reference the film to make sure you're looking for the correct record. So once you receive this film from him, and you want to make sure that you only take one out at a time because you don't want to get them mixed together. And there's a diagram right here to explain that you're going to actually pull the carriage out, put it under the first roller, under the second roller, wrap it in the take-up reel, and then you're going to fast forward to get it started. And then you push the carriage back in, and now you can actually start viewing the film. So what we had here was that we're looking at a statewide death. We're looking for the name Long, but what we're looking for, actually, he's pulled the volume 14, and the page number is 701, and that's what we're looking for. And the year is 1960. You can always focus it if it's out of focus. And once you've found your record, there's a rotation, and there's a print button. You can actually print here, and all prints are 50 cents here.
Here at the State Archives, they have a great selection of military records. We're not doing a show specifically just for military records because this is a beginner's genealogy class. So we're gonna look at some really cool military records that they have here at the State Archives. And Judy's going to tell us about them. She kind of gave me some names beforehand, and we found some. She let me pick them out, so y'all got to put up with what I found. So anyway, Judy has on white gloves too because plenty of archives will require it. It varies from archives to archives, but it keeps the body oils from getting on the paper and protecting the paper. So that's what she does, and she'll handle these, not me.
Yes.
So.
Well, I've asked them to pull some documents here that I thought were interesting, and you had asked for an interesting name. I'm going to start out with these World War I discharge papers. The State Archives has a collection of all the parishes that have World War I discharge records. And I pulled one here for Dudley J Leblanc. You can see, you know who that is, right? Okay. Yep. And it gives some good information. It's got his date of birth, and it says what unit he had served in, and a little bit of information about his service, what his rank was, and that sort of thing. Now, these records have been digitized, and they are available here in the archives on a DVD. And when you come in, you'll be required to look at the DVD rather than the original record. So it's preserved.
Yeah, we just had fun pulling some originals so you can see what they actually look like.
And these are important because there was a fire in the National Personnel Center in St. Louis, Missouri in the 70s, and some of those records have been destroyed. So this might be the only record that's available
I didn't know that.
for them. The next ones I've pulled are Confederate pension records, and the State of Louisiana paid pensions to the soldiers and their widows starting in about 1898. They started paying pensions. Now, you had to be in necessitous circumstances. In other words, you had to be poor to qualify. And we have two different kinds of pension applications. This one is the soldier's application for pension. And this one that was pulled is for Henry R. Gerald. This isn't anybody famous. I couldn't find a famous person for a pension, but Henry R. Gerald, he's a native of Mississippi, and he says in his application it gives his date of birth in March 27,
which is great genealogy information.
So yeah, that's great information. He was born in the state of Mississippi. It says when he enlisted and where in New Orleans he enlisted. Talks a little bit about his regiment. He was not wounded. On the next page, he does give some very general information on his family. He's married, he has a wife and so many children, but he doesn't name them. Now, after he dies, we have his widow's application. Now, you get a lot more information on the widow's application. These are really great. Because she has to prove that she married him. So what does she do? She said, she says that she married him. It gives the date of that they were married, the 6th of January, 1870, by Reverend Mr. Causey, the Baptist minister in Livingston Parish. And why is that 1870 important there?
Because the courthouse burned, so the marriage records for this particular couple then would be lost.
All gone.
It took place, what, like 75, 76?
Around 1875, the courthouse
late 70s, the courthouse burned.
So this may be
probably the only proof of
marriage that they have. She also gives his date of death and where he died. And this one it says He died on the 25th of June, 1910, in the 10th Ward of East Baton Rouge Parish. Also, it says he died at home after about a month's illness, and he's buried at Zor Church in East Baton Rouge Parish.
So we even have a burial place now.
We know when and where he died, and for these Confederate soldiers, they may have died before they started keeping death certificates, so that may be the only record of his death.
Much that's where he's buried, too.
Now, these records have been also digitized, and they are available online through Family Search. Okay. It's not indexed, but you can browse through them. They're in alphabetical order, so you can browse through them on the Family Search website.
Is the microfilm here of this?
They are also microfilmed, so you have your choice of looking at the microfilm or looking online.
So if you're here, you can go ahead and get them.
You can get a copy.
Very good.
Now, not all the records have been microfilmed, let alone digitized. There's plenty of records here to pick from that haven't been digitized. And I've gotten this really humongous book here to look at. This is a record of pensions paid to Confederate veterans and their widows. And they're arranged by numbers. These pensions have numbers assigned to them, so they're in numerical order. But there is some, even though it seems to be just financial information, that they were paid on such and such a date, you can get some genealogical information from them. And this
first
entry here on that line, in the margin, Renee, what does it say?
It says he died.
It says he died, but it doesn't have a date.
Nope.
But all these
See,
columns,
when he's paid, it ends. Yep.
When he was paid, you can narrow down his death date to about 1906, probably 1907. Yep. So that would be some indication that he died.
Very good.
And then the final one that I've pulled here, if you wouldn't help me
get that,
pick this up.
Is another one.
We have some War of 1812 pension records. And of course, this is the upcoming 200th anniversary of the Battle of New Orleans. So I thought this would be interesting. And I pulled the application for the widow of Christopher Glopion, who is
Marie
Laveau. And she's got 2 or 3 applications in here to get a pension, a widow's pension. She says she is the legitimate widow of the late Christopher Glopion, veteran of the War of 1812. So I thought this was very interesting as well.
And in really good condition.
Yes.
I mean, it wasn't 1812, it's like 1870s
some of these
when she
older,
applies, but the papers are sometimes better than the
and
ones
of course,
from the 1920s.
it's important that they're here in an archives to be preserved and taken care of. And this is where all these lovely computerized records start. This is where they begin. So we're lucky to have them here, and they're lucky that they're being taken care of.
Yeah, so if you're interested in military records, come by and visit the State Archives or look in Judy's book or look on Family Search, see what you find for Louisiana, and there's a good chance you might have the originals or microfilm copies here.
Watch our programming on demand anytime at CatholicLifeTV.org.
I'm in my favorite section with some of my favorite material to research here at the State Archives. And this is one of the areas that's most overly, overlooked. These are the periodicals. What are periodicals? We probably talked about it in perhaps one of the other shows, but back in the 60s or 50s, when they were tearing down these plantation homes along the river and collecting data, they started with all these historical societies and genealogical societies. And when they did, they started publishing what people would gather and collect. And it's a wide variety of stuff. It might be cemetery listings, it might be church records, it could be somebody's Bible stories, it could be a written transcript of an oral history that was given about your ancestor. The thing about it is that all the different regions of the state and outside of the state did this. And so what they've done here at the State Archives, and the reason that I like it here so much, is they're so well organized. But the volunteers here have done a fantastic job of collecting these journals from all over, of maintaining them. They bind them and keep them organized and well ordered, and they're easy access here. They're at the library and some other places, but they're mixed in with other books and a little harder to use. They're great for use here. And the reason I want to talk about these is my number one I want to talk about is from the New Orleans area, and it's called New Orleans Genesis. And I can't say enough about it because volunteering at the Catholic Archives, we publish the records, the Catholic Church Sacramental Records. New Orleans publishes, but their records are only published through 1831. And we get barraged with requests, why can't we get the New Orleans records? Why can't we get our records from New Orleans? Well, guess what? Those records are readily available to you. So if your family's from New Orleans, there's a series of books, New Orleans Genesis. Now here, they've bound them to make them beautiful. This is a year's worth of, they come out 4 times a year. So you have 4 issues here, but they're bound in green. That's not what they look like when they come, and depending on where you access them, they have a different look to them for each quarter that they're published. But there are some great indexes, and I want to show some of those. And they're by Yvette Bowling, and there's 2 different books. The one with the blue cover, that's right here, and we'll put this up on the screen as well. In this, what she does is she indexes some of the early ones. Some of the best material and some of the best church records were published in those early years, so in the 60s and 70s, but they're still, even today, publishing the New Orleans Catholic Church records in these books. So they cover all the way up until the 1900s. This index is the best source because you can go to Orleans Parish, and therefore you can just St. Henry, St. Patrick, St. Augustine, St. Louis Cathedral, but the records are there. It might be an index, but at least then if you find your baptism or if you find the marriage record that you need, you can write to New Orleans and get a copy of that record. So I can't stress enough the use of these. For me, some of the best uses of it is the fact that I can go, if I find my ancestor is in Rapides Parish, I might go to the association in Rapides, which is further up on this aisle, you can't see it, but their collection of periodicals is one that I would want to sit down and look at because my ancestors came through there, and you might just find them in there. It's a little more time-consuming to research this way, but it's amazing the stuff you find because you can do your tree, and you can do your family group sheet. That tells you nothing about how they lived. The information given in these periodicals tells you a lot about the way that they lived. And so some of it is sourced, some of it is not, and that's okay because they're tools. They're tools for you to find out about your family. For instance, in the Terrebonne Lifelines, which are down here, this is published in Terrebonne Parish, but it covers Lafourche and Assumption Parish. They cover a lot of the excerpts out of the newspapers. And so in here I found out that my great-great-grandfather bought a plantation store in 1906. No one in the family had any idea. His son had no idea. And then we went back and actually found proof of it. But it was in the newspaper. So these are the kind of things you find in periodicals. We have them here for the surrounding states that surround Louisiana, such as Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, but also as far as Kentucky, North Carolina, Tennessee, because some of the settlers that came during the antebellum period came from up there. So by having them, you can go back and perhaps find, if you find on a census that 1880, that his dad was from Tennessee. You might want to come here and start going through some of the Tennessee periodicals so that you can get maybe find information or get a feel for what was life in Tennessee when they left, what made them leave. You might find out about epidemics. This tells the story of your ancestor, and it's a great read besides. You learn a lot from them. Now, these genealogical societies, some are still in print. The New Orleans Genesis is active, Terrebonne Lifeline's active. 2 for the state that are still active, Louisiana Genealogical Register, also Le Raconteur, cover things from all over the state. So if your ancestors are from Shreveport, you could come down and look at these to see. Plenty of them indexed in the back. The indexing varies to non-existent to being online. Les Voyageurs, which is from St. James and the German coast along the river, which is down here. You go to their website, and you will find their index to any of these here. And they are fantastic references to the early Acadian life that landed on the river. Besides the state ones that they have, where your ancestor may have moved to Texas or otherwise, they have them for Canada, they have them for Nova Scotia, they have some from parts of Europe and other areas in Canada. So we are not confined to just Louisiana, but that is the beauty of our archives. And these are so well organized and so concise to where you can pull what you need and use them readily. And we're running out of time, and there's so many other things in the state archives that I could tell you about short of your coming here. So please come. But behind me you see a series of books and bookshelves. What this is, again, people don't even know this exists. People don't know how to use it. There's a card catalog. Every ancestor name, for instance, Beasley or Tatum or Bergeron, if it appears in one of these family books, it's been indexed, and there's a card in a card catalog that will tell you every book that has something written about your family. So if you're lost and maybe you're just starting out, but you have names and you know nothing more than that, you might come and look through 3 or 4 books and see if somebody wrote about your family and go from there. So that's another great source. Now, the Catholic records to do genealogy from the various church parishes, from from the Baton Rouge Diocese or Lafayette Diocese, they have a set of them here on great tables, easy to work with here. So that's very good, because in other places they might be on a shelf on an island. You've got to pull what you need and go sit at a table. There's a lot, like Judy talked about earlier, on the Civil War here. But there are also a whole series of reference books just on Louisiana, and they're on the wall behind me further down, and we might get some shots of it to see, but that's just to give you some idea of the wealth of information, that's here in this place, particularly back here. And I think if I had to honestly say the things that I come here to use the most, for me, because the vital records I can find online, and they're fine, yes, I can come here, but these periodicals are by far some of the best that you can find around. Now, if a society went defunct and they ended, it just means they stopped publishing, and you can still find, some of their records here. And pretty much, I think I've covered, I'm trying to think if there's anything I left out in periodicals, because they're really good. The indexing, I think I covered. So we will show you a picture, because where I'm standing, we can't get to that card catalog for the family names, but if nothing else, that's something to come check out. So we're out of time. I've tried to give you a good idea. We've pulled vital records. We've looked at some military records. And again, our state archives has a great selection of military archives. And last but not least, I want to thank the staff here. Bill Stafford and his staff. Y'all, when y'all come in, they are so helpful. They will help you. They'll try to get what you need. They'll explain things. If you don't understand how to work a machine, they will help you to get on it and get going. So don't be shy. Come out and visit. Bring your pencils, bring your notebooks, come comfortable, and plan to spend a day, because there's a lot of stuff here to come and see. And if you're not going to research, just to come and read. So we'll leave you on that note, and you come check it out for yourself. Thank you.